Hello, everyone. It is Monday, the 11th of November, 2024, also known as Remembrance Day in Canada, and formerly known as Armistice Day up until the 1930s, I believe, or 1930. And before I kick off my video today, again, nothing's planned or staged or scripted, because I think it's more authentic that way. But I will start with a poem. As a veteran who has lost many people that I cared about and or knew that were legends. It's a day to remember, not forget, and then also people like me try to expose the truth of what happened and what got us involved in these wars to begin with, so that we don't have what happened pre-World War I, during World War I, pre-World War II, during World War II, during the Vietnam War, Korean War, during Afghanistan, etc., Iraq. What's going on in Ukraine and Russia right now, and in Israel and Palestine, and how close we are possibly to another war, unfortunately. Anyway, in Flanders fields, the poppies blow between the crosses row on row that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarcely heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up the quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. And so this is why people wear the poppies during Remembrance Day, a few days before they start. It's a reminder of just how many people we lost during these wars. Brave men and women who sacrificed everything in order to keep us free and try to have freedom in other countries where people were not necessarily as free. But yeah, so even for me, like with the Afghanistan, where I served as an infantry officer from 2001 to 2016, and then I got out, incorporated, I was working with highest levels of government, training them on how to respond to natural and man-made disasters or executive protection with people that even go to Davos, and the head of the Raptors, Justin Trudeau. I've done high-level stuff. Unfortunately, in the last year and a half, especially in the last few years since COVID, my career opportunities have been limited, to say the least, because during COVID and just even before it happened, I was warning people about what was actually going on with it. And because the people I was naming and who I was saying was involved in this and what it would lead to, people were at that time, especially in 2020, early 2020, were not having any of it. But these were people within the international security industry. Or within Canada, the highest levels of government, like Global Affairs Canada and DART and military, including special forces personnel who I was giving information to, all levels of cabinet and government. And so during that time, because what I was sharing was not mainstream, and we were very heavily censored, especially in Canada, it's still hard to get this information out even now, even though I've shared it for years. And I'll get into that later. I was going to talk about censorship and shadow banning and stuff like that, because as a Zetetic warrior, again, I have no beef with him at all. Like, I think he's a very brilliant man, absolutely. And he has a fairly popular YouTube channel, way more popular than mine. Not that it's a competition. I'm not doing this for fame and fortune. I'm doing these videos because it's important, and there's a lot of misinformation being shared out there. And so just like, people like Elon Musk and others were saying, independent journalists, which I consider myself to be to a certain degree as well, are the people that are getting the actual data out there anyway. But Zetetic Warrior, he and Jaron have this beef, and there was a video that was just posted within the last month, posted a month ago. But it's anyways, Zetetic Warrior calling Jaron a shill, and the video is like 3.5 hours long. I don't know how long his specific video is, because that was posted. Actually, I'll share it with you. Anyway, and he's giving proof. And so anyway, I think that one of his comments about Jaron being a shill, he was saying that he has like a lot of subscribers, which he does. And there's often times when he's doing live feeds now, he's getting significantly less viewership than you would expect, given that amount of followership. And then he was making comparisons with himself, saying that like he has approximately 2,000 subscribers or whatever on YouTube, and that he always gets consistently like, or at least, you know, in a higher level volume, gets like over 100 viewers per live. And so he was doing that comparison. But Aesthetic Warrior, I'm going to tell you, like, I mean, no, like, put me involved in this beef. I don't care. It is what it is. But he's very censored and shadow banned on social media platforms. And even when he's live, like, people are saying they did, like, they're not getting notifications, they're not getting emails, they're not seeing his video, etc. And it's being downgraded. Like, there's so many reasons why, that because he is such a big channel, he's going to be more targeted, if that makes any sense. Like, the focus would be more on him and censoring him and shadow banning him and making it where people can't see his videos more so than you or I, because we don't have as much influence, right? And especially because he's been on really big shows, even recently with Jim Brewer and others. And so I think that we should be like assisting him in maintaining that momentum and getting out there more, because he is someone who's very friggin' knowledgeable, especially when it comes to the reality of the earth. And so I don't understand why people are thinking that this guy's some kind of a shell. And there was allegations made that, like, he's, you know, has, you know, inappropriate conversations with women within the community or something along those lines. And I could say that I've talked with him literally all, like, depending on what we're sharing, like, information, all hours of the day and night. And like, he's never once been inappropriate or even like alluded to any hint of that. And so I could say that, at least for myself, like, I have not experienced that. I can't even picture that. And just because of how we conversate, and so I don't know. I think he needs just a little bit more people defending him right now, that do communicate with him. And we don't agree with everything either. We agree with most things, but even when it comes to January 6th, for example, we are very much on two separate decision points or assessments when it comes to Ashley Babbitt, for example. And I've been wrong before as well. And so, like, I'm not going to just completely discredit what he's shared or what he's discussed regarding it. I'm just coming to my own conclusions based on my own assessments of videos that I've seen, footage I've seen with crisis actors, and how I break it down and lay it out, like, even frame by frame during that whole period. And like, even with her involved within the scene, right? What I'm calling a scene. And what they were doing to set the stage and anyway. And so, but I'm coming at that from someone that has experience in the security industry, and have, anyway. So that is what it is. But anyways, this is the video. I'm probably gonna take a look at it, and but not over the not over video with you, because I was doing some more digging in people that Trump is surrounding himself with, obviously, because he's going to be officially inaugurated on the 20th of January, but on the 6th of January, essentially, is when he's like taking over the spot, the presidency. And we've got him connected with AI companies, biometrics, human data mining, and people that want to make this an international thing. And why is this not coming up here? I'm looking for Sheldon Adelson here. Anyways, just to give some rest in peace. He passed away in 2021, and then his wife took over his business. But Sheldon Adelson, American businessman and political contributor, born August 4th, 1933 in Boston, Massachusetts, U.S., died January 11th, 2021 in Malibu, California, was an American hotel casino owner, newspaper publisher, and political contributor who earned an immense fortune from casinos in Las Vegas and Macau, enabling him to support conservative political causes on a large scale in the United States and Israel. And guess who the largest contributor to Donald Trump's presidential election campaign was? It was Adelson's wife, and then him before that. And so, very interesting. And obviously, given his background as well. So, like, again, there's a bit of a bias here, possibly, or a blind spot that we're not looking at. Adelson was born in modest circumstances in Dorchester, a neighborhood of Boston. His father was a Lithuanian immigrant who drove a taxi cab. The younger Adelson started out in business at age 12, selling newspapers. According to some accounts, he attended City College of New York, now a unit of the City University of New York, but did not graduate. After serving in the United States Army, Adelson started business in such varied fields as mortgage banking, charter tour operations, and hotel toiletries. He was said to have made and lost large sums several times. Anyways, I was talking about SoftBank and stuff like that, like literally in my last video. And so that's how I went down this rabbit hole as well. But we'll get to that. Comdex, Computer Dealer Exposition, a computer industry trade show. Anyway, let's get in here. Comdex convened annually in Las Vegas and soon became one of the world's largest trade shows in its field. And the first building block of the Adelson fortune. Purchased the Sands hotels and casinos in Las Vegas from Krikorian in 1989 and set up the Las Vegas Sands. So this is also something that so this is where it got a little interesting for me. Adelson sold Comdex to son Masayoshi's SoftBank Corporation in 1995. The Interface Group continued in existence as a holding company for some Adelson's interests. And so his son Masayoshi, Japanese entrepreneur, born August 31st, 1957, Saga Prefecture, Kyushu, Japan, is a Japanese entrepreneur who served as chairman and CEO of SoftBank Corp., a media and telecommunications company he founded in 1981. Son was a third-generation Korean with Japanese citizenship. Before traveling to the United States to study in 1973, he repeatedly tried to meet, I think you want to say Fujita, anyway, Den, president of McDonald's Company, Japan Limited, to seek his advice. So the connections to SoftBank, connections to McDonald's even, connections to high-level billionaire types within Japan. Yeah. Yeah. So there's so much here on Sheldon Adelson. Anyway. It's getting bright in here. So yeah, I just think that he's someone to, not him personally, because again, he just died in like a few years ago, but his family and their ties and connections to AI companies and digital, CBDC involvement and things like that. And I've talked about Jeremy Jurgens already, and he's heavily influencing this narrative being pushed as well. And he's like one of the top guys from the World Economic Forum, and he's Canadian. And I've already even shared interviews that he's where he's even like discussing what he's going to do or the plans that they want to put in place in order to have this international overreach, is what I like to call it, surveillance state. And people like WEF as well they've conducted training exercises and simulations where they're talking about like massive cyber attacks on a large scale, like even Klaus Schwab, like literally videos that I shared the other day of him even saying that. So why, again, I will reiterate, do we want to be internationally connected, because it's not a globe, but internationally connected, if that is what's going to cause like the largest amount of harm? Like they say, like not just societally, obviously economically, but in so many different ways. And so if we're all connected to the same networks, then it's going to cause harm throughout, right? Whereas it'd be like the least amount of impact with the least amount of connections made internationally, so that if something happens in one area, it can be way more easily managed and isolated and then responded to, and not which would be much easier. And again, like your country, your problem, no offense, but again, like try to mitigate any form of damage or harm that can be thrown Canada's way, essentially. And so that's just one argument of many of why there should not be digital ID, like international ID, and like what we're calling government issued ID that would have it as part of the ID.
And forefront of bringing responsible AI solutions. We're proud to be at the forefront of bringing responsible AI solutions to US classified environments, enhancing analytical capabilities and operational efficiencies in vital government operations. This will dramatically improve intelligence analysis and enable officials in their decision-making processes, streamline resource-intensive tasks, and boost operational efficiency across departments.
So, just days after a leading AI startup that's raised billions of dollars in funding, which competes with ChatGPT developer OpenAI, announced it would sell its AI to the Pentagon, Meta has now also decided to share its powerful Llama AI technology with the US military, a military that buys and sells more weapons of war than the rest of the planet's militaries combined.
Meta's open-source Llama models are increasingly being used by a broad community of researchers, entrepreneurs, developers, and government bodies. We are pleased to confirm that we are also making Llama available to us government agencies, including those that are working on defense and national security applications, and private sector partners supporting their work.
And as the clamor to cash in on militarized AI continues, Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei argued that democratic nations should aim to develop the best AI technology to give them a military and commercial edge over so-called authoritarian countries, which he said would probably use AI to abuse human rights.
If we can do all this, we will have a world in which democracies lead on the world stage and have the economic and military strength to avoid being undermined, conquered, or sabotaged by autocracies.
Now, considering the fact that the US military has killed literally millions of civilians since the end of World War II, you don't have to be a tech genius to understand what they will be using this powerful technology for, right? Nevertheless, Meta claims the world's biggest military will be employing their AI for ethical uses. And it's not the first time the US military has shown an interest in AI.
The real-world consequences of the policy are unclear. Last year, The Intercept reported that OpenAI was unwilling to say whether it would enforce its own clear military and warfare ban in the face of increasing interest from the Pentagon and U.S. intelligence community.
Given the use of AI systems in the targeting of civilians in Gaza, it's a notable moment to make the decision to remove the words military and warfare from OpenAI's permissible use policy. The language that is in the policy remains vague and raises questions about how OpenAI intends to approach enforcement.
Now, this all comes as the Pentagon has quietly removed a ban on harming people using AI. A September 30th document lays out the US African Command, or AFRICOM's, reasons for buying AI technology from Microsoft. And interestingly, the part limiting the violent use of AI was removed in a later version.
US AFRICOM operates in a dynamic and evolving environment where IT plays a critical role in achieving mission objectives. US AFRICOM must expand to continue its vital mission in support of our African mission partners and US AFRICOM joint exercises.
So it seems the US is rapidly shelving its limitations on the use of AI to harm human beings. Maybe it's the fact that the Israelis have been using AI in Gaza during their mass killing of civilians. Maybe it's the fact that the Chinese are racing ahead in developing their own open source AI platforms. Well, either way, it's only taken a single year to move from not harming people to selling out to a US military, which in the past hasn't needed any help in carrying out its grim business abroad.
Yeah, that was very interesting. So there, the point was brought up regarding Jaron. Jaron asserts that if the 24-hour sun in Antarctica, Jaron asserts that if 24-hour sun in Antarctica, then the Earth is a globe, or it must be what he claims. And so this is what's getting people to be like more divided, and it's his own assessment and his own theory based on the model that he has in his own brain, and that's also why he wants to see it for himself. And people are claiming that it's making him a troll and all these other things. And so, like, what my argument to that, there's not really an argument. I don't want to argue, especially on Remembrance Day. But I'm just going to share again, like, why he's alluding to the fact, like, that why he's saying that, like. Again, I'm not him. I can't speak for him, but it's regarding the sun's travel path and how he sees it, and then even for me, like how I see it, with the sun traveling like from east to west on average, approximately like 1,000 miles per hour, like we've discussed again, depending on where you are within the Earth, and what season it is, because it does have a shorter ring that it travels. In what we're calling North Americas, or the northern hemispheres, in our summer periods, and then when the sun's travel path is along the equatorial line, then this is where we see in the north and the southern areas or regions, or how it's broken down. We'll see equal amount of day and night roughly. And then when the sun's travel path is on its furthest, like along the perimeter, that is when it's at the Tropic of Capricorn. And so this is where we would be experiencing in the more northern regions, where like 90% of the world's population inhabits. But we'd have the longest night periods of night, and the shortest periods of day. And this is during the when we have the winter solstice. It's on the 21st of December or the 22nd, depending on if it's a leap year or a non-leap year. And then it stays on this travel path, like the Tropic of Capricorn, 23.4 degrees south latitude of the equatorial point, which again is a measurable distance. Okay, so it comes out to approximately 1,660 miles distance that the sun's travel path is above us within this contained environment. Like I said, 23.4 degrees south latitude, furthest away from us, closest to what like the southern region. So this is when they experience their quote unquote summer months. But if you'll see by what the globe earthers are saying is Antarctica and the South Pole, they're saying it follows the line just south of South America. And so like if you have that point, or if you're like, let's say around like this area here, we'll say the sun's travel path, it actually, in order to average out the 24-hour clock that we have, 24 hours in a day, the sun's travel path is on average approximately a little over 1,000 miles per hour, 1,060 miles per hour on average, like I was saying. And so and that's like, again, like more when it's at the equatorial anyway. And it comes out to 24,901 miles in circumference. And so because we have that, like this is a fact that we have like approximately 24 hours ish in a day, roughly, then again, this would make it, because it's a longer ring, and we can see this with our own friggin' eyes, like just where the sun travels higher in the sky or lower in the sky, further away, rising and setting, further, southeast or east during certain periods, and more west, northwest during other periods of the season. Very predictable path that it takes every single day, every single year, has not changed. Again, this is a intelligently created divine clock system that we're operating within. And so the sun's travel path. So like, again, if you were in this position here, the sun is traveling a little faster, again, just to like average that out, that the travel path that it takes to attain that 24-hour clock-ish time frame. There's no way you would see the sun here for 24 hours. Okay, so this is that's the point that he's making, and that's fine, right? That he's able to do that, right? And so that's why the example, like, why do we see like a 24-hour sun when the sun is when we're experiencing the summer solstice period, for example, in the northern hemisphere, which is on or around the 21st of June of every single friggin' year, where the sun's travel path is 23.4 degrees furthest north latitude that it ever will go. Again, a measurable distance, approximately 1,660 miles from the equatorial ring line. And again, it's not just the sun traveling in a westward direction. It's the other luminaries also have their own individual, predictable, measurable travel paths, right? And we got Polaris within the north, directly above the North Pole, and that's that Polaris does not move. And there's time-lapse videos, etc., that have been done. And again, it's predictable paths that even in my farmer's almanacs for years, like it discusses the eclipses, it discusses the new moon, full moon periods, and it discusses like the Venus's travel path, Jupiter, when they're more visible, when Venus is an evening star versus a morning star, etc. And so the 24-hour sun is because the sun is traveling the Tropic of Cancer, where it travels a little slower, because again, it has a smaller distance to go, but it still has to average out that 24-hour clock. And where we experience, again, in the north, the longest amount of daylight, shortest amount of night, and for 3 days approximately. And then it starts its descent from the highest point in the sky, or the furthest north it travels. And so this is what he's talking about. He's saying that would not make sense. You would not be able to see a 24-hour sun in Antarctica or the South Pole region for that reason, because of like his assessment of what he believes to be the model that where the sun's travel path, it would not be able to happen. Anyways, I'm being very redundant in saying that. I hope that makes sense. And then this is where you have the centripetal and the centrifugal forces. This is like how, like why too, that there's periods where there's heavy winds, etc., in certain regions of the earth, because like these paths that it takes, this forms like this I guess you would call it a spiral. And when you map it out, it's like you can like measure the sine waves. and this also impacts the ether. So again, this is a contained environment. This is a pressurized, gaseous, contained environment. And as per the laws of thermodynamics, that would be an impossibility if this was an open system. It's a closed system. And anyway, and I think that's all I'll say about that. But anyways, I understand. Like, his argument is very strong, right? And he's trying to come up with his own stance on it. And of course, he's also said, do your own research. He has said that if he was provided with repeatable, measurable, observable data that goes against like his beliefs or his theories, then he would alter his theories based on new information, which is what an actual real scientist does. So what he is saying is that within his model, like, that's why he's going to Antarctica, because his argument is very valid. It's a strong argument. I understand where he's coming from with that. And so, and within his model, and just like mine, it would be an impossibility, I will reiterate, to see the 24-hour sun in the South Pole, in Antarctica. And so I'm fully okay with getting trolled and shilled as well. I am not state, I am not a shill. Oh, actually, I can't say that, right? Because perception is reality. So like, if you perceive me to be as such, then there's it is what it is. I can't change it. And but yeah, circling back here, because like even in the news, it's disheartening. Iraq parliament poised to legalize child marriage even as young as 9 years old. Take a look at that. And even a few months ago, there were people from certain amnesty groups that were warning people about this. And this is, again, something that elicits emotional responses in people. And yeah. So I'm wondering why this narrative, like why this is being pushed on within our news media. Iraq's parliament is moving forward an amendment to the country's personal status law that would allow Iraqi religious authorities, rather than state law, to govern marriage and inheritance matters at the expense of fundamental rights, Human Rights Watch said today. The Iraqi parliament, which completed its first reading of the bill on August 4th, 2024, will have 2 more readings of the bill and a debate before deciding whether to vote it into law. If passed, the amendment would have disastrous effects on women and girls' rights guaranteed under international law by allowing marriage for girls as young as 9, undermining the principle of equality under Iraqi law, and removing protections for women regarding divorce and inheritance. Child marriage puts girls at increased risk of sexual and physical violence, adverse physical and mental health consequences, and being denied access to education and employment. The Iraqi parliament's passage of this bill would be a devastating step backwards for Iraqi women and girls and the rights they have fought hard to enshrine in law, said Sarah Sandbar, Iraqi researcher at Human Rights Watch. Formally legalizing child marriage would rob countless girls of their futures and well-being. Girls belong in school and on the playground, not in a wedding dress. This is just, yeah. And so, disgusting. Disheartening, but we'll see. We'll see what passes. So yeah, today being what I like to call, well, I don't like to call it, but I consider today also a 9/11 day, because in the calendar system that I follow, the spring equinox is the start of the new year, and then you look at like September, that month, the number 7, le numéro 7 en français, the number 7 in French is sept, and that's where you get the September, right? There's Latin to that as well, when it comes to the history of these, like the titles of these months. But anyway, September would be the 7th month, and it's even in the name. And you've got October, Oct, 8, and then you've got November, Nov, 9, December, Dec, 10. And so today is, in my calendar system, it would be 9/11. And so it's not frustrating, but it is kind of frustrating when this is the day that was chosen for Canada to celebrate our soldiers that died in battle, not just in World War I or World War II. And so this is also a period that they say that the war obviously stopped. It was the 11th month, the 11th day, the 11th hour. And But again, like when I see 9/11, it's just like even with what happened on September 11th, like the 9/11 being in that, the significance is not lost on me. And I do believe that there were staged and planned events that were implemented and organized and ordered by deep state, people that were internationally, that there were international military, pharmaceutical, industrial lobbyists and campaigners, and people that profited from the war because they were supporting and backing both sides. And again, they made a lot of money, and they were involved in, like I've said, like even like not just World War I, staged and planned events, or World War II. And I even talk about 1933 with the Reichstag fire, Reichstag being parliament in German. I'm probably mispronouncing that again, so I apologize, Mark Sargent, for getting it wrong again, but I think it's Reichstag, along those lines. And so Marinus van der Lubbe, he was a 24-year-old, seen as painted as an activist, as an extreme communist type. And there's court records that admit that there was an officer that drove him to the fire and had already been started. So there was no way, it was impossible that Marinus van der Lubbe started that fire. And what happened within days of that, Adolf Hitler, he took a lot of freedoms away from the people within his country, and he blamed that act for taking away more rights and freedoms from people, more censorship, etc., and more, again, control. And it was staged and planned by the friggin' deep state, and he's obviously involved in that. And then even with the Vietnam War, JFK, like he assassinated by the deep state, and there's literally people within like the mafia, the mob, the cartels that were working with people within the CIA and the FBI, those types that and Johnson. And again, they're named. You've got Helms, you've got Hoover, you've got anyway. I've shared these on videos, but they were part of like Project Paperclip, MK Ultra type activities, heavily involved in that, and again trying to MK Ultra people into doing things like assassinate leaders of other countries, including Fidel Castro, multiple people, not just Lee Harvey Oswald, who again he was a fall guy, and there was more than one shooter during that assassination, and then also repeated attempts at assassinations in other countries, creating instability, raping, torturing, murdering people within, blaming it on communists. Not true at all. And JFK wanted out. He didn't want to get involved in Vietnam anymore. And within 24 hours of his death, there was laws and policies put in place to further escalate these wars in Vietnam. And again, hundreds of thousands of people at least were profoundly impacted by this. And LSD, drugs being used as well, and you name it, electroshock therapies, and Canada also very heavily connected as well at the higher up levels, even with Cameron as the like the psychologist that was like basically running like MK Ultra type activities in Montreal, and even Kamala Harris's mother was working literally in that same organization, and she was literally part of these experiments. And then one of the and then Harvey Weinstein, his father, was also part of these trials and experiments as well. I know how this sounds. It's all crazy, but this is all verifiable data. People just need to do a little bit more research and their own critical thinking, and just, get back to me. So don't just take what I'm saying. And so this is not like a rant or event or anything like that, but it's just like even with Pearl Harbor possibly being staged and planned as well in order to, again, get people involved in a war and blame people that are not at all responsible for these events. And it's just frustrating. 9/11, I've talked about that a lot. How even now talking with close friends, and we respectfully we just have to kind of like just stop talking about it, because they believe the mainstream media narrative of what happened that day. And so even bringing in Building 7 also collapsing and it being a controlled demolition, that is refuted. That is literally argued. And I'm like, you do your own research. Like, this is very common knowledge at this point, where Building 7 went down as well during that day. And I've shared footage and proof of crisis actors, role players, actual accounts of actual firefighters and law enforcement on the ground, and essentially victims of this of these staged and planned events that were saying there was multiple explosions, and that this questioning the planes. possibly one plane, remote control operated. And again, there was training exercises being conducted in that same area at that same time. And so many interesting things that happened, like I said, and people are not believing it. They actually believe that there was a couple of planes that hit these structures and made them collapse under themselves. And that has never happened before or after in history. And there are structural engineers and experts that have done literal research papers, like substantious peer-reviewed dissertations on those structures and the impossibility of it being of these free fall like collapses being conducted by planes. And again, I've showed compelling footage of CGI images for that, and how one of the ABC reporters that was in the sky at the time, he had green room effects, specifically experience and background, and just the frames of the footage that he shared. Also, it was impossible to get the plane at that distance when he was zoomed out. No plane at all, and then as soon as he zooms in, you see that the plane enter the frame and hit the building. Again, this is just by virtue of the like the speed of an aircraft. Like it's impossible for it to have gotten that fast. Gotten that close that fast, and then with thermite and like these like different particles that were tested in the air to be like, makes no sense. And these, a lot of these structures also, and these beams turning to dust. There's just so much that we could talk about. And so very clearly, and then we could talk about the dancing Israelis. This was all completely out of the report that was made. So much misinformation. I've shared the report, and again, it's complete bullshit. So how is it not that there's deep state actors that are involving themselves in the events themselves, and then the cleanup afterwards? This is very obvious. And then the Pentagon, people are alleging that was a plane as well. It was a missile, ladies and gentlemen. That like, and then even that the aircraft that crashed in the like in the middle of nowhere, essentially, like engines and the landing pads are never to be destroyed during crashes. They are so heavily reinforced and built to last and sustain very high heat, temperatures, etc. And so, and no engine found, no landing pads found. Like, it's just, again, like the impossibility is just, it's not lost on me. And then even the angle that that this alleged plane hit the Pentagon, it would literally have to be, especially the size they're alleging, like how is it literally within like inches or feet ago, like flying parallel to the ground to hit at the angle that it hit. And not even a friggin' wing, like nothing to prove, no black box, no nothing. And again, it was just very interesting, and that's what got us involved in that the Afghanistan war. And myself, I've buried people overseas during war operations, and it's not the greatest, most pleasant experience. It is a reality of war. I understand that, but when you learn that these events were staged and planned by the military pharmaceutical industrial complex, lobbyist pricks who have never wanted for anything, who have never been first responder types, who have never actually put themselves ahead of anyone else, when they're the ones that are staging and planning events that actually kill people to get us involved in wars where people that I know and love are dying even now. It's really frustrating. And again, like and the whole 9/11 thing today, it's just not lost on me that it's just a fucking game for some people, and they love the fact that people are struggling and have hardships during this period as well. It's a period of mourning for a lot of people, and yeah, and it's just more money being funneled into these fucking assholes on this day. So yeah. January 6th, staged and planned event by the fucking deep state, including Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton types. And Trump, he had the opportunity to jail Hillary Clinton under his term, and he didn't. And he said it was like it was better for the country, and that's not fucking true at all. No, it was not. It was better for your billionaire friends not to jail her, because again, the rabbit hole runs deep, and a lot of those people are connected to the drug trafficking, the human trafficking bullshit, and again, staging and planning events internationally that are getting us involved in wars. Yeah. 9/11 was acted 100%. Totally agree with that. Yep. And they keep on like well, they didn't not raising them, but they're trying to. And so that people will willingly give away their freedoms and rights for what they're for minor comfort, and actually some discomfort in a lot of cases as well, right? And they're pushing it because there's a lot of money invested in these digital IDs, in these digital platforms, in the human data mining, the biometrics piece, because again, like we are like a product, humans, and there's a lot of humans that can be exploited for cash, for money, or for labor, or for whatever. And yeah, there's a lot of money in it. This is why even with COVID, this staged and planned event, it was also, they were pushing digital IDs. They were pushing like the ArriveCan app and stuff like that, which was created in 2017. And it's linked to so much information that's not required by any friggin' border security officer. I mean, no offense in saying that. But yeah, like your salaries, like your friggin' everything. Not everything, but like linked to a lot of things. And again, very dangerous. And it's not like, even after 9/11, like the amount of safety protocols that we have to go through, and like the invasion of our fucking privacy, including like these body scans and getting touched freaking everywhere. Like it's and then being monitored, like obviously, like there's surveillance literally everywhere in airports, but it's just like, it's such overreach. And these people like have this sense of power and authority, not everyone, where it's again, you give some people like a little bit of power, and it can be dangerous. And we've seen this with the Stanford prison experiments that I've talked about, 25, and countless other behavioral studies that have been done that show just how much power can influence people into doing bad, criminal, immoral, unethical things. Actually, even the experiment with the electroshock therapy, with people that were on one side of a wall, and actors on the other, who if they got a question wrong, then there would be electroshock, and the more questions they got wrong, the more intense the shock would be. I've shared videos on this. And so people, like, if they were told by what was seen as a professional, literally just another actor in a white coat, but again, you wear a white coat or a white lab coat, you look professional, and was telling these people, like, keep on going, like shock these people, like they got it wrong, and so like the people on the other end, that the actors were like screaming that, oh, that hurts, that really hurts, oh my God, you're killing me, and because someone that was deemed a professional was saying, like, just keep on shocking him, like I think like a ridiculous amount of people, the majority of people actually would be willing to terminate, and actually did go through the process of terminating a life. Again, this is all acting, because they were told to do it. And so they had that green flag or whatever you want to call it, in order to do it. And groupthink, my God, and hive mentality, it's just so profound, just how many people can go with like the same narrative that's very blatantly untrue, and even if it again means like overriding their morals and ethics and values. It's weird. Yeah. The Freedom Convoy as well. There were crisis actors and role players, including Brian Fox, head of enterprise in Ottawa, millionaire. That were he was the one that was carrying that fucking flag, and he was getting like the photographer is Justin Trudeau's photographer. And again, I have images of him, even with law enforcement around him, that were also involved in staging and planning events where they were trying to make people riot, essentially. And even my friend Helen Gruss, Ottawa Police Services for over 23 years now, she was suspended and charged that first weekend of the Freedom Convoy. Why? Because she was trying to make it peaceful. She was sharing medical, scientific, and government data regarding the lockdowns and the mandates and COVID and irrefutable data that would completely undermine the mainstream narrative that was being pushed. And in 2022, they were further escalating the restrictions on Canadians and forcing, again, COVID shots on even children. And so this is why more people got involved in the Freedom Convoy than they thought. And because of people like Helen Gruss and countless others, like even veterans, like within my community, we organized peacefully, even speaking at the event as well, at the Freedom Convoy, and making this about peace and love and truth and nonviolent. And we were calling for it. And so even and calling out, again, the crisis actors and the deep state government friggin' embeds that were there to make things worse than they should have been, right? And so even with the war monument, again, that crisis actors, lies about the homeless shelters and the homeless people being impacted by people that were there on the ground. Again, this was all bullshit being propagated by the mainstream media and cabinet morons that are still somehow serving us in an official capacity, which is terrifying. But I was volunteering at the Ottawa Mission for several years at that point, and I was literally in contact with the director, literally on a daily basis almost, and especially during that time. And he was saying as well, like this was lies being spread by the media, and so he was getting contacted about these alleged incidents, and he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about, because literally the people that were involved in the Freedom Convoy were feeding them. So there was literally barbecues on the friggin' site. They were cleaning up the streets. They were shoveling the snow off the sidewalks and stuff like that. They were not blocking emergency routes at all. So this was all bullshit. And again, look at crisis actors and role players and government embeds if you want to look at who was actually doing things that were creating the most disturbance by design. And it's just annoying. Like even with the honking and stuff like that, like sometimes it was initiated literally by fucking government embeds, or like the hired protesters, like the organized protesters that go to multiple different events internationally, and again a part of like fake scenes, like even with the Russia-Ukraine war, like that, like watching people like literally pick up the boulders and like and stuff like that on sets, and clearly styrofoam even marked, right? And ridiculous. And the duping delight effect as well, right? When people are on the news and they're sharing bullshit, sometimes it's very easy to catch like who the liars are and who are not, just by looking at their behavior and their microaggressions and so. Anyways, there's certain tells. I did want to get into the why, but maybe I'll get into duping delight, because I've shared that as well. Just talking about it again. I don't have a script. Duping delight is also very interesting. Let's see here. Maybe on mine. I know I have a video on it. It's just sometimes even on my search on Rumble, like on my videos, it's the titles don't come through. Anyways, I was thinking about showing this to you the other day, but I'll share it with you now. Because this is
adrenochrome.
This is also a very, believe it or not, a big industry in certain groups. Because I'm on YouTube, I'm not even going to say the name of it, but you can read it here.
33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemasonry and CIA mind control. Now, I understand your initial skepticism. These topics often get dismissed as mere conspiracy theories. But rest assured, what you're about to see is a meticulously researched presentation that sticks to facts. No wild speculation, no unfounded claims. This is a serious investigation, and we're going to see names, dates, declassified records, and research papers which proves this connection between adrenochrome, Freemasonry, and MK Ultra beyond any shadow of doubt to even the most skeptical. Dr. Ernst Albert Hermann Friedheim is credited with saving millions of lives with his cancer and tropical disease research. Perhaps lesser known is his role in the discovery of adrenochrome. In 1933, Dr. Friedheim found that the respiration of rabbits' red blood cells increased by 50% after adding of a red compound obtained by oxidizing adrenaline. This red compound that he created by mixing adrenaline with silver oxide is perhaps the first documented experiment with adrenochrome, just not by name. His study states there was a very real and measurable physiological reaction when an animal was given adrenochrome. The name adrenochrome translates to color of the adrenal, explained by Friedheim's description of the red compound created from adrenaline. The word adrenochrome was coined as early as March of 1937 by David Ezra Green and Derek Richter from the Biochemical Laboratory at Cambridge. The paper states, adrenaline induces a vigorous oxygen uptake when added in low concentrations due to the formation of a red-colored oxidation product, adrenochrome. In a broad sense, it's not so much adrenochrome, but adrenaline, which is special. Before the discovery and isolation of adrenaline, every other known psychedelic in the West was derived from plants. Ibogaine, which comes from the iboga shrub, mescaline, which comes from the peyote cactus, and LSD, which comes from an ergot fungus on rye. Adrenaline marked an incredible milestone of a drug that could be extracted from and given to any other animal with adrenal glands. It was the same universal drug with similar effects across man and animal. So what exactly is adrenochrome? When adrenaline naturally decomposes in the body, it breaks down and produces adrenochrome. When adrenochrome decomposes further, it converts into androleutin and the pigment melanin. In simple terms, the controversial nature of adrenochrome is because of the fact it comes from blood, and therefore serves as a connection between blood magic of the old world and the scientific and secular modern world. But since adrenochrome comes from adrenaline, why doesn't this same controversy apply to adrenaline as well? And what does Freemasonry or MK Ultra have to do with any of this? Citing a paper from 1959 titled A Small Research in Schizophrenia by Drs. Osmond and Hoffer, they describe schizophrenia in very dire terms. Among the ills which afflict mankind today, few are more formidable, more universal, more persistent, more damaging, more mysterious and more elusive than schizophrenia, the shattered mind. The paper also mentions that Kraepelin believed there were glands somewhere in the body, producing poisons which affected the brain, later referred to by Carl Jung in 1909 as toxin X. Again from the research paper, in May 1950, our colleague, Dr. John Smithies, while reading Roussier's book Le Peyote, observed that some cases of acute schizophrenia closely resembled some mescaline experiences. An even more interesting observation was then made. Listening to a recording of a mescaline experience, a man mentioned that when he took large amounts of adrenaline, the outside world became changed. He had colored visions with his eyes shut and feelings of unreality. Based on that, Drs. Osmond and Hoffer wondered if they might be onto a natural mescaline-like compound M substance. So they began to consider the immediate derivatives of adrenaline, which included adrenochrome. During the Second World War, pinkish adrenaline, which had lost its effects, was used during anesthesia. Disturbances, which included hallucinations, occurred when the patient revived. When Osmond and Hoffer mentioned pinkish adrenaline to fellow researchers, they suggested adrenochrome, mentioning it might be related to every known hallucinogen, and provided some of this brilliant red stuff for them to experiment with. By October of 1952, Osmond and Hoffer had tested adrenochrome on themselves, their wives, and their colleagues. They experienced subtle changes in thinking, perception, and mood, not unlike those seen in early cases, schizophrenia. Perhaps they had found their M substance, or toxin X. In July 1954, they also experimented with adrenoleutin, a greeny gold relative of adrenochrome, but found that it was too hard to work with because its effects could last for over a week. Through these studies by Osmond and Hoffer, they were able to consistently demonstrate that adrenochrome had hallucinogenic effects in the brain. They also discovered that when subjects were given LSD, there was a corresponding rise in the amount of adrenochrome detected in their blood. Running out of their supply and funding, the 1959 research into schizophrenia ends with, quote, "So far, money to inquire into the workings of the brain, the organ of mind, have been generally meager. Money is readily available for every other organ, but the brain, which as the vehicle of mind makes all else possible, is grievously neglected." Answering that call for funding was the Northern Jurisdiction Supreme Council of 33rd Degree Scottish Rite Freemasonry. In 1934, the Scottish Rite's Sovereign Grand Commander, Melvin M. Johnson, decided to focus on dementia precox research after meeting with the National Association for Mental Health. He assigned Dr. Nolan Don Carpentier Lewis as the field director. This Scottish Rite Dementia Praecox initiative would go on to fund over 200 projects between 1934 and 1975 for around $30 million, adjusted for inflation. Of the many studies funded by Dr. Lewis on behalf of the Scottish Rite, one of particular interest took place in 1953 in the Canadian room of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, New York. Here is where Dr. Abram Hoffer and Dr. Humphrey Osmond presented their first report of their adrenochrome hypothesis. At the time, little was known about the biochemical process related to adrenochrome production within the body. However, it was clear that adrenochrome produced marked changes in subjects similar to LSD, mescaline, and psilocybin. The unstable nature of adrenochrome, however, led to inconsistent results which could make the adrenochrome hypothesis weak to unaware biochemists which failed to reproduce the results or detect adrenochrome in the blood and urine. The animals tested included spiders, fish, pigeons, rats, cats, dogs, monkeys, and humans. The results of testing adrenochrome on various animals was so consistent that, quote, it can no longer be doubted that adrenochrome is indeed active. Brought together by Scottish Rite funding, Dr. Lewis and Dr. Hoffer became colleagues and friends, alongside a Dr. Ewan Cameron, made somewhat infamous from his psychic driving research under the umbrella of then top-secret CIA MK Ultra program. Further evidence of the presence of adrenochrome in MK Ultra research is from a declassified video in which a scientist explains an experimental substance called MER-17 that can neutralize the effects of psychedelics.
And furthermore, we are continuing our experimental work with hallucinogenic drugs. Mescaline, cannabis, adrenochrome, etc.
This video clip is evidence of the fact that the government did in fact consider adrenochrome a psychedelic substance on par with mescaline and LSD. On the bright May morning of May 4th, 1953, British-born writer Aldous Huxley was in his Hollywood home, about to have his first experience with a psychedelic drug, mescaline. More precisely, he drank 0.4 of a gram of mescaline dissolved in half a glass of water, given to him by his new friend, Dr. Humphrey Osmond, associate to Dr. Abram Hoffer. Huxley's experience that day changed his perception forever, and along with it, American pop culture would soon follow. This first mescaline trip inspired Huxley to write The Doors of Perception, published in 1954. In the fourth paragraph of The Doors of Perception, Huxley clearly mentions adrenochrome by name, likely hearing it from discussions with his friend, Dr. Osmond. Struck by the close similarity in chemical composition between mescaline and adrenaline, further research revealed that lysergic acid, LSD, an extremely potent hallucinogen derived from ergot, has a structural biochemical relationship to the others. Then came the discovery that adrenochrome, which is a product of the decomposition of adrenaline, can produce many of the symptoms observed in mescaline intoxication. What makes adrenochrome unique is that instead of coming from the peyote cactus, mescaline, or a fungus that grows on rye, it comes from the human body itself. Huxley himself points this out. But adrenochrome probably occurs spontaneously in the human body. In other words, each one of us may be capable of manufacturing a chemical, minute doses of which are known to cause profound changes in consciousness. In 1962, the abbreviation of Drenchrome is mentioned in the book Clockwork Orange, based on the NADSAT language from Anthony Burgess. It's mentioned alongside another NADSAT reference to synthetic mescaline, synthmesk. This is notable because adrenochrome and mescaline were grouped together by Aldous Huxley's The Doors of Perception. This hints that Burgess was familiar with Huxley's work. In fact, Burgess was more than just familiar with Huxley, he was an avid fan. In a review of Huxley's Island from 1961, Burgess wrote, "In the whole history of world literature, no writer has been better equipped to create images of false and true utopias than Aldous Huxley." Further evidence that a direct connection can be made between The Doors of Perception and Clockwork Orange is explained on the website for the International Anthony Burgess Foundation. The inscription in the copy of Brave New World in the book collection at the International Anthony Burgess Foundation reveals that Burgess became familiar with Aldous Huxley's dystopia in 1938, while he was studying at the University of Manchester. This makes it Burgess's earliest recorded reading of a work of dystopian fiction. Huxley's work would go on to play a pivotal role in the creation of A Clockwork Orange in 1962. Perhaps even more popular than the book, Clockwork Orange was famously adapted by Stanley Kubrick into a feature-length film in 1971. The movie also includes a scene with the word Drenchrome on the wall, this being the first well-known public reference to
And what else did Stanley Kubrick direct? 1969 fake-ass moon landings.
adrenochrome in movies or TV.
I've got the receipt.
At the time, the Drenchrome reference was almost certainly only recognized by a small niche of people that were also familiar with the doors of perception. Aldous Huxley's brother, Julian, also became familiar with Drs. Osmond and Hoffer, collaborating on a 1964 paper titled Schizophrenia as a Genetic Morphism. Another writer related to Hollywood's version of adrenochrome was Terry Southern. Born 1924 in Alvarado, Texas, Terry went on to write for Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove, Saturday Night Live, and the film Easy Rider. Southern's short story, The Blood of a Wig, 1967, was the last in a collection of writings called Red Dirt Marijuana and Other Tastes. The story has a vague nod to adrenochrome as the blood of schizophrenia patients. Listen, man, you ever made Red Split? You know, the blood of a wig? Well, it's something else, baby, I can tell you that. Red Split, man, it's called Red Split. It's schizo juice. Blood. The blood of a wig. In the story, a man injects himself with the blood of Qin Li, a well-known Chinese poet who is currently being treated in a mental institution. The effects of this schizo juice, aka adrenochrome, are described as sense derangement-wise. It was unlike acid in that it was not a question of the essential I having new insights, but of becoming a different person entirely. The character goes on to describe that not only did the injection allow him to feel what it was like to be insane, it also allowed him to feel Asian. This concept of injecting yourself with red split adrenochrome to somehow experience or otherwise absorb the traits of the donor is another connection to ancient blood magic and rumored powers of the pineal gland, which will over time be attributed to adrenochrome as well. The 1971 book, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas by Hunter S. Thompson injects some more speculation into the mythology of adrenochrome. He writes, "Adrenochrome, you won't need much, just a little tiny taste. That stuff makes pure mescaline seem like ginger beer. You'll go completely crazy if you take too much." "Where'd you get this?" I asked. "You can't buy it." "What kind of monster client have you picked up this time?" "There's only one source for this stuff. The adrenaline glands from a living human body. It's no good if you get it out of a corpse." "I know. He's one of these Satanism freaks. He offered me human blood. Said it would make me higher than I've ever been in my life." This lineage of Hoffer and Osmond in the world of science, to Huxley in academia, to Burgess, Kubrick, and Thompson in Hollywood, is the most direct reference to four specific persistent rumors about adrenochrome. 1. Adrenochrome is a powerful psychedelic. 2. Adrenochrome is better fresh. 3. Adrenochrome is better when derived from younger animals. And 4. Adrenochrome is associated somehow with the pineal gland. Coincidentally, adrenochrome is the very first item listed in Adam Gottlieb's book, Legal Highs, due to the book listing each drug in alphabetical order. The entire entry is quite short and reads, "Effects, physical stimulating, feeling of well-being, slight reduction of thought processes. Adrenochrome causes chemically induced schizophrenia." William Gibson is an American-Canadian writer most well known for his transhumanist book, Neuromancer, which has been credited as being a catalyst for the entire subgenre of science fiction now known as cyberpunk. Gibson is also credited with coining the word cyberspace, first using it in a series of short stories compiled as Burning Chrome in 1982. In that collection is a story titled The Winter Market, which has a reference to adrenochrome. That's the trouble with designer drugs. They're too clever. That stuff you're doing has some tricky tail on one of its molecules. Keeps you from turning the decomposed adrenaline into adrenochrome. If it didn't, you'd be schizophrenic by now. In 1982, the Sisters of Mercy make an early mention to adrenochrome in their song named after the chemical, with lyrics such as "High tide, wide-eyed, sped on adrenochrome, filled with panic in their eyes rise, dead on adrenochrome." In 1986, Stephen King's It talks of glands that can be tapped, chemicals of fear, and that the fears of children were simpler and more powerful. Damien Hirst, an artist known for his provocative works, sold a painting on May 22, 1992 at Christie's in London, titled Adrenochrome Semicarbazone Sulfonate. Here, 60 years after the discovery of adrenochrome, it had entered the world of fine art. 1998 saw a movie adaptation of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas starring Johnny Depp, Benicio del Toro, and directed by Terry Gilliam. This was perhaps the widest exposure the public had to adrenochrome since Kubrick's adaptation of Clockwork Orange over 3 decades before. By 2016, adrenochrome became dispersed through international culture, being cited on daytime talk shows, a 2017 movie titled Adrenochrome, and a 2020 Bulgarian news report that referred to adrenochrome as a satanic narcotic. In 2021, Bill Maher mentioned adrenochrome on his HBO show Real Time, itself a reference to Jim Caviezel discussing it at a political rally. The following year saw mentions of adrenochrome by name in the television shows The Pentaverate, The Watcher, and The Boys. So here we have a full history and breakdown of adrenochrome. Misunderstood, highly controversial, and criminally understudied chemical, produced naturally in the human body and now at the center of countless works of fiction. The ties between adrenochrome and Scottish Rite Freemasonry began in the 1930s, supplemented in the 1950s through the CIA's MK Ultra, and from there injected into the mainstream of pop culture. Hoffer wrote a retrospective of his thoughts on adrenochrome in a 1994 paper called Schizophrenia, an evolutionary defense against severe stress. In it, Dr. Hoffer, pioneer of adrenochrome research, still maintains adrenochrome and adrenoleutin in the blood and brain cause a toxic psychosis called schizophrenia. Toxin excess, as Jung had called it over a century ago. In a surprising twist, Dr. Hoffer also suggests that high levels of adrenochrome could, in fact, be related to the fountain of youth after all. The paper states, there is no overall advantage in having schizophrenia, in being sick. The advantage arises from having some of the genes of schizophrenia which do not express themselves, that is, in the first order, relatives of the patients. Parents, children, and siblings of schizophrenics will have advantages in both physical and intellectual areas. Physical, more youthful in appearance, especially as they age with much less gray hair, fewer attacks of autoimmune diseases, more ability to tolerate pain, more resistance against bacterial infections. There is evidence they get cancer less frequently. Intellectual, more creative in their thinking, and many have become top scientists, artists, writers, and poets. Another surprising claim that LSD might owe its psychomimetic properties to a disturbance of adrenaline metabolism, and that psychedelic experience is a result of the activity from both LSD and adrenochrome. When the body can't make enough adrenochrome, the LSD by itself causes anxiety and tension. Injecting adrenochrome allows the full experience to develop. If you found this video interesting, please remember to like and subscribe. And
that was very interesting. But wait, there's more. I was talking about duping delight, so I did want to share a bit of that as well. And it's stuff that I've been sharing on my Rumble account. My YouTube accounts keep on getting deleted, and so this is an earlier video. I share a lot of it even before I get to this point in this video, but it's from the 2nd of June. Dear Wolfgang, exposing the truth behind Sandy Hook. And I'm starting with crisis actors are often employed by the government when running FEMA exercises or drills. Discussed FEMA at length as well. Yep, I've shared so many videos on this. It's on my whiteboard too. I'm saying it again. I haven't seen this in
my sensibilities may not be the average man, but this probably is the worst I have seen. It's a good thing it's not being prosecution, because then I couldn't answer that. But if I say it in court, they yell at me and don't make me answer. So no, I don't. How young? Sorry, I don't. How young was this? If I attempted to answer it in court, there'd be an objection and they'd win. They weren't cute kid stuff. I mean, they're first graders. They weren't cute kid stuff.
I've shared this video.
It wasn't a tent. It was this magnificent thing. And it's sectional and it sticks together with Velcro. And it's from the Department of Emergency Management. I hope they and I hope the people of Newtown don't have a crash on their head later. But
Weird.
Either that piece of paper for me that says somebody's dead,
That's also
or occasionally a huge pile of evidence to convince them. So we didn't know if that's what killed her. We didn't know if she was dead before it happened. We certainly knew she was dead afterwards.
Yep.
Hi.
Yep.
As you've probably noticed, I'm not the president. I'm just a citizen. And as a citizen, I'm here at the White House today because I want to make a difference, and I hope you will join me. My name is Francine Wheeler. My husband David is with me. Our younger son, Ben, age 6, was murdered in his first grade classroom on December 14th, exactly 4 months ago this weekend.
I can't tie my shoes. I can't tie my shoes. How do grown-ups do it when it just gives me the blues? I'm never so confused as when I try to tie my shoes. Maybe I'm too slow. Can't make that little bow. I pull the laces tight and then I almost break my toe. I only get confused when I try to tie my shoes.
I've never asked for anything. Not from you or anyone. Now it's my turn to be selfish. It doesn't matter to whom these weapons were registered. It doesn't matter if they were purchased legally.
The principal, who, God bless her, lost her life, was just a very special person.
Covering the white hair with the hat, because like that was like a very long time prior to that, but I'm just gonna keep this going.
And all the parents knew that.
2 years ago, I called my 8-year-old son an asshole. Thank you. All that great. In my defense, it was a stressful situation.
Could you describe him again?
He was naked.
That's it? No height, weight, hair color?
2 decades ago.
A very special person. And all the parents knew that.
And then run down here.
It was awful. It was awful.
You doing okay, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
We were actually running to the house to get her teacher a pair of shoes.
What happened with the Italian?
They didn't tell us anything. Only what she knows, which I don't know if that's accurate. So we don't have any information. I don't know.
If that weapon had been in place, he wouldn't have had that gun. But what happened instead, 22 decades ago, was that the assault weapons ban was left to expire. And they had started at that time, the CDC had started researching on ways to prevent gun violence. And what happened instead was that the NRA and the NSSF got a hold of some of our elected officials, and they were able to get them to stop trying to find out ways to get information to prevent gun violence while we weren't looking. We weren't paying attention. They changed the laws. They let these things expire.
Well, I think that a lot of things that people hear aren't true. And I know the first couple of days I was just getting angry because I was hearing things that I knew didn't happen.
Take us back to that moment. When did you first know something had gone wrong?
Hearing loud popping noise, so I could see him from the knees down, see the legs.
Right in front of you.
20 feet away, facing his feet, his boots were facing my desk.
And then he turned and walked away?
And then it was seconds, and then turned and walked out.
And you were there for the next 4 hours?
Nearly, yeah. It was 1:15 before, we were petrified and we didn't know how many there could have been. And we were listening. You couldn't hear a whole lot, but we did. We heard screaming and the gunshots. And
Richard and Krista Rico say that talking about their Jessica brings tiny moments of comfort.
And she was a ball of fire. She ruled the roost.
Our little CEO, we called her. She was the boss.
I knew exactly what she was wearing. I knew I was going to see her little ponytail come around the corner and her jacket and her black glittery Uggs that she had on that morning. And I knew I was going to see her, and I did. They find me around 1:15, asked everybody to sit down, and they said that it was a tragic day in Newtown today, and 20 children were killed.
I was amazed at the strength that Grace's parents showed. They say it is Grace who is guiding them through these difficult days. What do you want people to know about Grace?
Well, Grace had such a great spirit. She was a kind and gentle soul, and she was just the light and love of our family. And I remember that morning, putting her on the bus. She had a habit of blowing kisses, but then she'd give me a big little liver lip, like, ooh. But then I knew she was so happy to go off and get there. So sure, we have anger and we're upset and we don't know why. So we'll just take the lead from them, and we will not go down that road, but we'll let them guide us.
It's a hard thing, though, isn't it, to not feel that?
We're going to go on, and we're going to use her positive energy to help guide us forward.
So we'll see if Robbie Parker, I assume he's going to come out to the microphones now and make a...
There's multiple clips I've shared this as well. Sorry, I completely missed November's like what he said regarding Jaren. I know this is like friggin' from like an hour ago, but no, Jaren asserts that the 24-hour sun in Antarctica means the AE map is wrong, and he's right. And I agree with that too. And so yeah, like even the, like I it's funny, I was talking about just the other day as well, because I talk about Peterson's projection map. I talk about Robinson's projection map. I've shared this as well. And maps from the past, right? That just so much conflicting data, right? And what's real, what's not, what's actual, like legitimately like maps that were created in the time that they were alleged to have, or if they're more recent, because there's even that going on as well. But even with the size of the of these land masses that were being shown on various different maps, like it's now becoming more common knowledge that like the sizes of these land masses are inaccurate. For example, Africa being much larger than when it's being portrayed, and North America being smaller, Greenland being smaller, Russia being smaller, and so it's there's that, and then there's also maps like I've shared before that were coming in from allegedly from Asia, showing that there was like more land masses beyond what were being shown, so extraterrestrial land, or whatever you want to call it, and so. Yeah, I don't know, but I do know that there's just so like that no map that we have right now that's in circulation is showing the most accurate representation of what this Earth plane is, and I think it's by design. I think it's for a reason, and yeah, so that's just my points on that. Back to duping delight. If you go on Rumble and BitChute and just type it in, and if you want to like specify it to a certain event, it's actually you can do it by that as well. And so with Sandy Hook, duping delight, you can look at that. So many different other events and possible shootings, and then people that are tagged as the people that are the ones like leading the investigations or leading the like the autopsy reports and stuff like that are people that are likely deep state actors used, whether they realize it or not, being suckered into fucking lying to us about events that are getting us into like it's just taking a lot more freedoms away from us, right? So like when there's stage and plan events like this that happen, what's the push? Literally within minutes, hours of this being reported is take our guns away, take innocent civilians' guns away, restrictions on free speech, etc. And so it's very predictable.
A statement looks like the family is there, and they're getting ready to make to come to the microphone. So we'll listen.
Okay.
I will say, yeah, since we're on this topic too, understanding the sun is a separate subject. That is, and I agree with that as well. Look, you shouldn't be looking to the sun to assess the shape of the Earth, and so for things like that, I look at the Earth curve calculator, alleged calculations that are being used to demonstrate the curve. And so even at 3 miles, for example, there would be 6 feet of alleged curvature that would be obscuring someone's view of an object, whether it be at ground or sea level. And we're seeing well beyond that, especially when you use infrared. And there's no physical geographic horizon. And you would need to have that physical geographic horizon in order to prove that there's some kind of a downward slope, right? Where we have the water being stuck on this wet spinning rock traveling through space allegedly and being held on by gravity. And yeah. Facts. This guy. This guy. Sorry, I'm going to rewind it again.
Getting ready to make to come to the microphone, so we'll listen now.
Okay.
He's trying to talk.
So my name's Robbie Parker. My family is one of the families that lost a child yesterday in the Sandy Hook Elementary School shootings here in Connecticut. As the deep pain begins to settle into our hearts, we find comfort reflecting on the incredible person that Emily was. I guess that's it. Yeah.
It's about emotions. It's about how people respond to a tragedy. I didn't see that in Sandy Hook, did you? Parents, when I was a state trooper, the job I did not like is having to go to somebody's house at 3 o'clock in the morning, knock on that door, and do what? A death notification. Ladies and gentlemen, when that light comes on, they look at me, we had Stetson hats on, and they know something's wrong. I'm about to give them the worst news that they could ever get, that their son or daughter just died. You want to see emotions? You want to see heartaches? Your life was just destroyed by my news. They hug me, they grab me, they cry, they won't let go of me. I don't even know these people. And by the time an hour passes, I actually have to take them in my car and take them to the morgue to identify the body. Yes, ma'am. Why? The reason that I believe there is such a push from Democrats. They truly believe that this country needs to be without guns. And there's a reason behind that. It really scares me. When the United States government, the Homeland Security, buys over 3 million rounds of hollow point bullets, who the hell are they for? Can I tell you what? It scares me. Huh? Sorry, 6 million. I'm old. When I was a state trooper, we were never allowed to carry the hollow points. We actually would get fired if they called us with them. Yes, sir. As soon as you hear Sandy Hook, the first thing that the Connecticut legislature did, they passed the new gun laws. Within a month, 350,000 residents of Connecticut became automatic felons because they didn't register their guns. These are people who owned their guns, they bought them, they owned them, and now they're supposed to turn them in.
The tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary appears right now to have been a tipping point for a national conversation about gun violence, one we've not seen in a long time.
They can fire 100 bullets in a minute if people know what they're doing with them.
We have to convince the Senate to come together and pass common sense gun responsibility reforms that will make our communities safer and prevent more tragedies like the one we never thought would happen to us.
My name is Bill Begg. What's my inspiration for coming tonight? I'm the parent of 3 Newtown students. I'm a graceful track coach. I'm the president of the medical staff here at Danbury Hospital. The newly formed group of United Physicians in Newtown that formed in response to the December 14th.
All right, I'm going to share this because it just stood out to me as well. Okay, so Sandy Hook happened on the 4th of December, 2012. And then that was released, like these interviews and stuff like that from the Sandy Hook parents on the 13th of April, 2013. So I just did a simple search. Right here, December 14, 2012 to April 13, 2013, 120 days, guys and gals. And so even with that, you've got the 201, the 102 built in. And yeah, just more universal language being used.
Students. I'm the EMS medical director for town and this region, and I'm an ER doctor that was on shift December 14th. What's my goal in the next 2.5 minutes? The goal is to somehow convince you legislators that gun control measures that you hope will enact will make a difference.
At every level. The thing that I think is clear with young people and with adults as well is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
It's now been 5 days since the heartbreaking tragedy in Newtown.
1 p.m.
Over these past 5 days, a discussion has reemerged as to what we might do not only to deter mass shootings in the future, but to reduce the epidemic of gun violence that plagues this country every single day. That conversation has to continue, but this time the words need to lead to action.
And I challenge you too.
And the liberals in Canada are doing the same thing, and NDP. Like there's such a gun grab going on, and that's why none of this stuff surprises me. And there's so much misinformation too about these states and plan events, and they're trying to do gun grabs for people that are using knives. They're trying to do gun grabs for people that are using makeshift firearms that people are building themselves, or off the streets, right? And so they're blaming law-abiding citizens who have the full right to have firearms, painting them as terrorists, while they're not the issue here.
Everyone that's watching this today, you can take those questions that I'm asking and ask them of your school board, and they'll answer you. I go up to Newtown, they are stonewalling me. When I'm in front of the school board, they've got the state attorney, Stephen Sadinsky, who wrote the report, sitting in the room. Now, what is a state attorney doing listening to me speak?
This is my official license from the state of Florida. I am a licensed insurance adjuster, and I'm licensed in all lines: property insurance, casualty insurance, auto insurance. So I am an adjuster, insurance adjuster. I just never told them that I'm an insurance adjuster. So when we're looking at the documents, I'm looking at them if I were an insurance adjuster, see if they comply with all the laws. So if you really want to find out what really happened on that day, on December 14th, you do look at the insurance because you have property damage. Everybody's well, number one, most school districts, when you have damage, the first thing you do is you file insurance claims, if they're true and accurate, okay? We asked today for the appraiser's report, okay? Right, I'm an adjuster. I wanted to see the adjuster's report on what he found, what his recommendations are, what the settlements were. We have nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I've been filing FOIA requests since February 27th, 2013. I think every parent, grandparent, everybody in America has a right to know the truth. Every administrator, every teacher who works in our schools, they have a right to know what kind of environment they work in. But guess what? But bicycling is more important than finding the truth. Now, what is wrong in Connecticut?
That America is tired of the gun violence, that Congress must act. And each day that Congress does not act, it remains complicit in the gun violence.
Like they talk so tough, these betas.
Day.
But like they would never talk to someone like a real man like that, like to their face, like never. And it's always appealed to the majority as well. It's the way with talking like this.
We urge you to pass a ban on high-capacity magazines, like the 30-round magazine that killed 20 students and 6 educators at Sandy Hook School. There's a stack of documents attached, right?
Which are not relevant to what I was asking. Are you sending me documents?
There's a stack of documents reflect that.
Well, you send me documents.
Stop you there. Minutes of December 17, 2001. You see that?
Yeah.
I did not ask for the minutes of December the 17th.
And that's what you asked for, isn't it?
No, I asked for consent agenda attachments that explain what's on.
Okay, I keep on interrupting, but the advisory committee for Sandy Hook, like this is them, right? Okay, so look what happened with the advisory committee for January 6th. How did that play out? Okay, we're getting all the information now, by the way, that I was sharing right from the beginning, but it's finally been coming out in the last year, but shows just absolutely how much people were lied to and how many crisis actors were used, and to believe that this was a real event. And and they lied about everything, and they withheld so much fucking footage that would clear so many people, and there's still people in jail even for the Freedom Convoy because of liars.
The agenda.
Hey, listen, Mr. Alvin. First bullet point says I never want consent agenda. You see that, sir? Yes or no? You're in as a town. Did I read that correctly?
But that's what you're doing to control the documents. I'm going to
Did I read that correctly? Did I read that correctly?
I read it, but I'm asking the school.
Please answer my question. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah.
Does not have.
Oh. Anyway, I mean, name calling, I shouldn't be doing that. It's fairly low level, but again, this stuff frustrates me because these little betas lie so much and get away with it. Sorry, my internet reception is a little poor. See if I can. Okay, I'll refresh it.
That can't be true.
Sorry about that. The movie's almost done anyways, or the podcast, whatever this is. So.
Yeah, but that's what you're going to control the documents. I'm going to destroy the records.
Did I read that correctly?
I read it, but I'm asking the school.
Please answer my question. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah,
Does not have responsive documents.
that can't be true.
That's how the town responded.
But it's a lie.
I'm not.
Oh. Oh. Okay. That's interesting. We'll see if I can refresh. Sorry, ladies and gents. I will try to connect to the US. Yes, the Warren report. Complete bullshit. Talking into November about the Warren report. I don't remember if I was actually able to reach it. Why is it black? I can see. So, anyway. Another give out for today.
And I'm an ER doctor that was on shift.
Here we go.
December 14th. What's my goal in the next 2.5 minutes? My goal is to somehow convince you legislators that gun control measures that you hopefully will enact will make a difference.
At every level. One thing that I think is clear with young
I know we
people
were
and with adults as well.
Damage the first thing.
128.
I did not ask for the minutes of December the 17th.
I couldn't. And that's what you asked for, isn't it?
No, I asked for consent agenda attachments that explain what's on the agenda.
Say with Mr. Howard.
I got it.
The first bullet point says item 1 consent agenda. You see that, sir? Yes or no? You're in as a town. Did I read that
Yeah,
correctly?
but that's what you're doing to control the documents. I'm going to
Did I read that
destroy the
correctly?
records.
Did I read that correctly?
I read it, but I'm asking the school.
Please answer my
Oh, the internet's bad. Sorry.
Yeah,
question. It does not have responsive documents.
that can't be true.
That's how the town responded.
Well, that's
But they're lying.
Please answer my question. Is that how the town responded?
That's how you responded.
And you're here today, you just don't. Is that right?
I'm not getting
Please
it
answer my
right
question.
in it. I don't believe it.
And the town responded, it does not have that document. Right? Is that what it
Right,
says?
but- Yeah, but you have nothing. You don't have any document.
Isn't that what it says? It's my question. Isn't that what it says? The town does not have responsive documents.
Absolutely, but you have documents.
That's an issue. I'm just going to clarify that in case anyone's not tracking that. Like for them not to have access or zero documents that he needs or that we're fully entitled to have, that's a red flag.
For nobody.
And you just don't believe it.
I don't believe you. I don't trust you.
I'll also note that further objection that request 1A is not a request for a document. Hearsay. So you can assume these facts that are not in evidence. Hearsay.
He's an actor.
I'm going to have an objection to this, so hearsay.
Figures.
For some reason, you're under the assumption that we did not supply documents and complied
You didn't.
entirely with the documents.
He's so mad.
Everyone must check in. But the town didn't put it there. Who do you think put it there?
I believe Homeland Security put it there.
Okay.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
Why?
Thank you.
Okay.
No, hang on a second. I think the response from Mr. House is completely inappropriate. There's no evidence whatsoever that the first selectman was here voluntarily.
I just said thank
It
you.
is what it is. The testimony is what it is.
I just said thank you.
It's completely uncalled for, and I asked that it stop immediately.
He's such a beta. Oh my God. They're so emotional.
Let's try and keep things just.
No more thank yous, okay? I've never, ever, after we issued subpoenas for people to be our witnesses to show.
Okay, maybe. I'm just gonna, oh, did it again. Okay, what if I shut this down? Same friggin' titles. Sometimes that gets me. Yeah, okay, here we go. We're on the same place.
I believe Homeland Security put it there.
Okay.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Thank
So,
you.
Okay.
No, hang on a second. I think the response from Mr. Hauser is completely inappropriate. There's no evidence whatsoever that the Bush selectman was here voluntarily.
I just said thank
It
you.
is what it is. The testimony
Anything
is what it is.
inappropriate. And
I just said thank you.
It's completely uncalled for. And I've asked that it stop immediately.
Let's try to keep things just. No more thank yous. Okay.
I've never, ever, after we issued subpoenas for people to be our witnesses, to show up and verify that those documents exist, the attorney for the school board, the city of Newtown, and the Newtown Police Department, they told our witnesses not to show up. Now, when have you ever heard of that? He's an officer of the court. How does he tell my witnesses not to show up for this hearing? And you know what? They didn't show up.
Of course.
So, Mr. Halbert, you're here today because you do not believe that the town has porta potty records or responses in connection with the sign-in sheet. Is that right?
No, I believe the school board, I believe the school, I want this on the record. I believe the school board has the records. They have school board policies. They're required to show the expenditure, taxpayer dollars.
Do you have any reason to believe that I was not responding on behalf of the Board of Education, the town of Newtown, and the Newtown Police Department?
I do not believe.
Turning your attention to the next appeal, which is C-23? Yes, sir.
It's been a long road, and it's been a long time coming. It's been since April 25th of 2014 that these requests were first made. Every step of the way we've been met with delay, and I said it before, obfuscation. I think it's up to the commission to safeguard the rights of citizens like Mr. Hallbig, who come forward and ask for this information. This is precisely the moment when this commission ought to safeguard the rights of citizens such as Mr. Hallbig.
I just respectfully request that
the town produced all of the witnesses that were subpoenaed with two exceptions. Kevin Ancelotti, for good reason. With respect to Kathy Gomes, she was never called. So there's nothing in the record on that second day to indicate whether she was here or not. She was the principal at the Sandy Hook School now. She was not the principal on 12/14/2012.
again, I appreciate that it's viewed as a minor violation. I think the claim for civil penalties is outrageous, and I just respectfully request that the report be affirmed with one clarification.
Commissioner, I'm gonna be out of order. That's full, I know, but he's lying.
You don't have a right.
You're right.
He actually is the.
I'm the complainant. That man is lying.
You don't have a right to speak. Move forward.
Never have met a liar like this man here. I tell you what, we're talking about children safe. And I guess Cohen and Wolf appointed Monty Frank as the representative. But what's finding amazing is I don't see Monty Frank ever at school board meetings. Now, I've never seen in Florida, when we have school board meetings, there's always an attorney sitting at the head of the table. How do you conduct school board hearings, which are state statutes, the state laws, and you don't ever see Monty Frank at any school board meetings? I've got an email last night at 10:57 p.m. from my attorney stating that they wanted to cancel this hearing today. Can you imagine? I've got a $600 plane ticket. They emailed me at 10:57 last night saying they're going to cancel the hearing. And I tell you what, I got on that phone and I raised all kind of hell. And you know what? I am sick and tired of being pushed around. I might be 70 years old. I might be a senior citizen, but I ain't stupid. And I know the games that they're playing here today. Answer the goddamn questions and I'll go away.
So, Mr. Hallbig, what is it that you actually thought you were going to get when you asked for these documents?
Well, I was looking forward for on the consent agenda. When the board approved that consent agenda 5-0, you should have seen field trips for 26 children going to the Super Bowl in New Orleans, which is an out-of-state field trip, which has to be approved by the principal, the superintendent, and the school board. Nowhere on any of those documents have I reviewed, can you find that field trip signed and approved? That's what I'm looking for. And it should be on the consent agenda. And the reason I say that, sir, is because if you look at the document that he just provided to me, you can actually see a field trip being approved on the consent agenda. Field trips are approved on consent agendas. You just cannot find the one that I'm looking for. And that's why I picked January the 23rd, because that's the last possible date for a field trip to be approved going to the Super Bowl out of state.
In plain sight, the Challenger event that happened in '86, 7 out of the 8 people that were allegedly killed in that were still alive and well the last I checked. Not even really changing their names or their looks, their appearances like over the decades either. These are all people that are lying to us, whether they realize it or not, but like most do, the ones that are doing it, the duping delight people as well, these actors. And it's getting us involved in wars. It's further taking away our freedoms. So they should start getting prosecuted, charged, jailed. Lest we forget.
Ladies and gentlemen, in celebration of our beautiful country, performing together the Sandy Hook Elementary School Chorus from Newtown, Connecticut.
And yes, it is all
and
connected.
Grammy and Oscar Award winner Jennifer Hudson.
Here's a question I have for everybody who's listening. Where are the 26 kids from the Super Bowl? Where did they go? What are their names? Why were they given a gag order by the NFL and CBS Sports never to talk about what they saw at the Super Bowl? Who gives little children a gag order? Board member, superintendent, a little over a year ago, I sat in this chair, and I asked you for help about asking questions about an incident that happened in your community. Tonight, I pass out one page, and it has to do with your board agenda tonight. It talks about celebration of excellence. I cannot tell you how proud I am tonight. I got goosebumps. When I see a boardroom as a former principal, when I see this boardroom packed, standing ovation, when you got children in this room and you recognize them for all the good things they've done, I mean, I'm telling you, I got goosebumps. That's what you're about. That's what you're about. You got kids here, parents. That's what we want. Standing ovation, standing ovation.
But I'm upset, and it bothers me to this day. Board members, you allowed, under your watch, 26 children from the Sandy Hook Elementary School choir to go on a field trip all the way from Sandy Hook to New Orleans to sing in the Super Bowl. Can you imagine those 26 children, the pride that they brought back in the healing process of Sandy Hook and Newtown? Those 26 children sang before over 100 million people around the world. These kids brought love back in your community. But I look at your school board agenda, February the 2nd, 2013. They sang at the Super Bowl win, February the 3rd, 2013. You know, not one of you board members said one thing about their performance. Read your school board minutes. Not one of you acknowledged the fact that they did a great job, that they were excellent in what they did. I don't understand that. That's what your job is. How could you ignore that? I mean, I'm about to fall out of this chair. These are somebody's children who traveled on a field trip. They represented you, and you don't even acknowledge their singing? And then, how in the world could you not bring them, those 26 children, the chorus teacher, and their families into this boardroom and reward them with excellence? They represented you. When they are introduced as the Sandy Hook Elementary School Choir, they're representing the school board. They're representing their parents, their community. And you know what? You can ignore me. You don't have to look at me. But I tell you what, you didn't bother to bring them into this room, to shake their hands, to hug those children.
Excuse me.
In my
sir.
3 minutes up,
Your
I know.
3 minutes are up. Yes.
I agree with you. But let me tell you something. If I were you, I'd do the right thing and bring those 26 children here, bring their parents, bring their chorus teacher. Why would you not recognize their excellence? I'm ashamed of y'all.
I mean, you and I would never be talking if they didn't send those 2 homicide investigators. And I'm going to tell you what, they threatened me. They said if I don't stop asking questions about Sandy Hook, the Connecticut State Police were coming to my home and they're going to arrest me. Then I had 2 deputy sheriffs come to my house telling me that the Newtown police chief wants to know when I'm coming to Newtown. And then they ask if I own any handguns. I said, it's none of y'all's business. My wife, my grown sons have been threatened. They've contacted their school superintendents, board members. They've contacted community leaders and trying to get my sons and my wife fired from their job. I got a demand letter. It's called extortion or blackmail. If I didn't get rid of my website by end of August, if I did not get off of Facebook, if I did not get off of Twitter, they have directed me, this group of people have directed me to take it down. And if I did not do that by the end of August, that my family was going to suffer dire consequences. I'm off of Facebook. I'm off of Twitter. I have no website. You know why? They're scared to death that the truth is going to come out. You know, this is what the mobsters used to do in the old day. Remember when we were cops and robbers? They always attack the family. We're going to kill your wife and your children and your grandchildren if you testify in court. Well, guess what? That's where we are today. They're now threatening my family to get me to stop. That once you bring the family in and they're scared to death. Now, I filed criminal charges with the FBI. I have filed criminal charges with the civil rights of the Department of Justice.
Good.
And I'm hoping that somebody within those departments actually cares about their country.
Let's hope.
When I raised my right hand, we go into the job knowing we're never going to be rich. We're never going to be multimillionaires. We go in there because I think we want to make a difference in people's lives. It's our calling.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've seen death in Miami. When you're police officers in here, bless you guys. We do it because we want to make a difference. Every law enforcement officer takes an oath. We want to make a difference. When we hear shots fired, our hearts start pounding. We race to get there because we want to save lives. I did not see that at Sandy Hook.
Not wrong.
Today, the silence by the best detectives, investigators all across this country.
Yeah, and I don't know, like in some, like even with Bart Sibrel, like I couldn't even believe that he's still alive because of what he's been sharing over the years, and I think like I have no explanation why, other than like maybe it's because they're so influential right now and have been like throughout the years, that with them getting disappeared or terminated, it would just put maybe more light on the situation, which is like the opposite of what they want to do. They want to bury this, right? They want this to not be in the mainstream. They don't want people to question this or any of these events, staged and planned. And yeah, so sometimes it's counterintuitive, right? Like if you get rid of someone that's like more widely known, then the opposite of what you want to have happen will happen.
Police department, state, federal, and they're staying silent about Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting.
Yeah.
How can they remain silent?
Yeah, so maybe that's why too. Maybe because he's sharing good information, but he's also sharing misinformation. People are not taking him seriously. Because I was just having a conversation again this morning because people are debating me on Instagram, brain racing, whatever it is. Like this account was posting again like misinformation on the moon landings, and so I've been on having a dialogue with people on it. There's a lot of name calling towards me, but I don't care. And I've even said like as soon as you start throwing the insults, like you've already lost the argument, right? Like when you're targeting someone specifically and not the arguments or the theories they're pushing, then you don't know what you're talking about usually, and you're trying to detract, right? Because you're getting upset. And so people are asking me about gravity. So I did what I thought to be a good breakdown of what I believe it to be, and then I talked about electricity and magnetism at play, and responding and reacting differently within this environment based on things like temperature, pressure, and density, and how they react and respond differently during these like altered states of again temperature, pressure, and density, and then even talking about the laws of physics not being things like gravity, electrostatics, and these weak or strong nuclear forces, what they call them. It's literally just electricity and magnetism, different forces, different energies, whatever you want to call them, at play within this contained, pressurized, gaseous environment, interacting with the ether differently, again, depending on those parameters or parameters. And but people are now asking like legit questions. They're not being rude. So if you're going to ask me questions, then I'm going to respond to them.
The duty
to the best of my ability.
Protect. You know, when you have an incident that affects millions and millions of Americans emotionally, I mean, we were drained emotionally by the funerals. We were emotionally drained by the time this thing took a downturn. But where are my friends? Where are my men in blue? And you know what? Pick up the phone and call me. 352-729-2559. You are a bunch of cowards and you turned against your country. And why do I say that? Because you know better.
We don't hold people accountable. Are we afraid? I hope not.
I've got to reach out. I've got to find people who still love the truth. This country is in deep trouble, as you know.
If we don't come together as a country, as a people, we are in serious, serious trouble. We deserve better. We're a better America than they're making us sound like. This is what America is all about. You know, it's all about communication. It's all about talking, listening, but it's all of us learning and working together. And you know what Sandy Hook has done? Sandy Hook has created panic and fear all across America in our public schools. We're now building prisons. We're locking doors, we're putting fences up, we got cameras everywhere. What they have done is cruel. It is cruel to use children and teachers as props. And I expect you to hold me accountable tonight. Don't you walk out of that door without asking the toughest questions. Now is the time for us to come together. Now is the time for all of us to be on the same page. There cannot ever be another Sandy Hook somewhere else. What this government has done, and I pray to God that I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to march right into mental hospital. I'm going to enroll myself. When you walk out of here tonight, every one of us is hopefully going to be on the same page. Talk to each other. It's all about communication. It's about trust. It's not about a power struggle. And we need to spread the word, because Sandy Hook is the domino that make this government fall.
Wow, there's more than that. There's 9/11, the moon landings, fake space shit, January 6th, Freedom Convoy.
Does everyone get it now?
Yeah. Well, if you're on my channel, I think you get it. And like, there's so many videos out there on duping delight. Neologism, coined by Paul Ekman in his book Telling Lies, 1992. Duping delight, the pleasure of being able to manipulate someone, often made visible to others by flashing a smile.
Hey Canadians, did you know that you can convert some or all of your RRSP into physical gold and silver? And you're eligible for the same tax benefits associated with your RRSP account. That's right, no capital gains tax. If you haven't done the math yet, I hate to tell you, but you are losing value in your RRSP as we speak. Go do the math for yourself. We've had people walk into our store reporting to have lost anywhere from 30 to 50% so far. Are you aware that for the first time in history, real estate, stocks, and bonds are all going down in value? While gold and silver, on the other hand, are the only assets that are on the rise and stable. Converting into these hard assets can help you protect your wealth going forward. Are you waiting, hoping the market will recover? What if it takes longer than expected or promised?
Oh,
do you really want to risk coming out the other side?
Is it already over? No way. No.
I'm really interested.
Oh, yeah, it is. Okay.
I love your way.
I'll go out for 1 second. Well, not a second. I'll go for a little bit longer than that. Okay. Here's another one. Why am I showing duping to light on Remembrance Day? Because lest we forget, there are a lot of staged and planned events that are happening internationally that are removing our rights and freedoms and actually even killing people in the process sometimes. And they're still getting away with it.
Well, I kind of forgot.
The responsive training that you all had. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I kind of forgot because I was nervous and I didn't react fast enough like they did. So, but
And so, what you got in the corner and what was it like?
It was scary. Like I could feel everybody was like on top of me. So like I was suffocating. Like I was scared, panicking.
So it was like a big pile. Kind of explain what happened in the group.
Everybody was just like, we had
piling on top of
we were piling. Yeah, like they were picking up the desk and putting them all over the door. Everybody was like calling 911 and their moms, and we could still hear like the screaming and shooting outside, and it's just scary.
You know how close you were to the gunman?
He was next door.
Next door, as in you
The
were.
classroom. It was next door to them. Yeah.
So you were in the classroom next door to where.
Where it happened, yes.
I've showed at length crisis actors in January 6th, involved in January 6th, including deep state embeds, including government actors like David Lazarus and Harry Dunn and Ashley possibly Ashley Babbitt. Oh, sorry about that. And but before I get into that, actually maybe I won't because I'm already friggin' 2 hours into this. Oh my goodness. I want to talk again about, is it this one? With Jeremy Jurgens press conference, Global Cybersecurity Outlook 2023. What does it look differently now? Anyways, his threat assessment that people should be taking seriously, and his company is very much involved in it. Here we go. This was posted February 6, 2023. At the 2023 annual meeting of the World Economic Forum, as the 2023 annual meeting of the World Economic Forum wrapped up in Davos, Switzerland, it ended with a disturbing prediction from one of the leading voices, delivering a presentation on the 2023 Global Cybersecurity Outlook Report. Forum Managing Director Jeremy Jurgens, again Canadian, one of the top guys at friggin' WEF, revealed that 93% of those surveyed believe that a catastrophic cybersecurity event is likely in the next 2 years. Okay, so a few months from now, February of 2025, time would be up for this alleged cybersecurity catastrophe. And people at WEF as well, including Schwab himself, saying this on the record, that the next pandemic or plandemic would involve a cyber attack. And these people are pushing AI, they're pushing digital ID internationally, and international control of pandemics. Like, I can't even stress enough how important it is that we fucking monitor this stuff. By 2025, it's expected that the cybercrime will cost the world economy around 10.5 trillion annually. Again, there's some fear mongering going on here. Yeah, so key drivers of this growth are the ongoing digitization of society, behavioral changes due to the global international COVID-19 pandemic, political instability such as the war in Ukraine, and the international economic downturn. Again, these are all staged and planned by the people at the top, people that are the lobbyists and disruptors that are implementing these events, and then giving us the solutions for them that really don't help us. It takes more control away from us. According to the WEF report, one of the biggest threats is a mutating threat that could take the form of an AI-enabled virus. Okay, so who's involved in AI? And so an AI-enabled virus that transforms as it infects various systems and organizations to evade defense systems or even detection. Yeah. Anyway. During the WEF presentation, Interpol Secretary General Jürgen Stock spoke about a 2022 operation by his organization against the West African cybercrime group, Black Axe. So again, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, very interesting stuff that people should be monitoring and speaking out on. But anyway, Day of Remembrance, lest we forget these events. But on that note, I will leave it at that, and I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.